Dr. Asa G. Hilliard III was a renowned scholar, educator, and psychologist. He dedicated his life to unveiling the truth about African history and its impact on the African diaspora. Dr. Hilliard's lectures, particularly Return to the Source, stand as powerful testaments to his commitment to reclaiming African identity. His work continues to inspire countless individuals to delve into their heritage and challenge the distorted narratives that have been perpetuated for centuries. Dr. Hilliard's central argument in Return to the Source centers on the psychological and historical impacts of slavery. He contends that slavery was not merely a system of forced labor, but a calculated assault on the African psyche. This assault aimed to erase cultural memory, instill white supremacy, and maintain a system of oppression that continues to affect generations. Slavery, as Dr. Hilliard eloquently argues, was a multifaceted system of oppression. It went far beyond physical brutality and economic exploitation. It aimed to break the spirit of African people. One of the most insidious aspects of slavery was its focus on psychological domination. This was a calculated strategy to strip Africans of their identity and humanity. The goal was to create a subservient population that internalized their inferiority. At the heart of this psychological warfare was the systematic erasure of African cultural memory. Africans were ripped from their ancestral lands, separated from their families, and stripped of their names, languages, and spiritual practices. This disconnection from their roots was crucial for the enslavers' goal of mental domination. This erasure was not accidental. It was a deliberate tactic to sever the ties that bound Africans to their history, their ancestors, and ultimately, themselves. By stripping them of their cultural identity, enslavers aimed to create a void that could be filled with the ideology of white supremacy. With African cultural memory suppressed, the process of indoctrination began. Enslaved Africans were subjected to a constant barrage of messages that reinforced their supposed inferiority and the supposed superiority of their white enslavers. This indoctrination was woven into the very fabric of society, from the distorted images in textbooks to the laws that codified racial hierarchy. The aim was to internalize this sense of inferiority, to make it a self-fulfilling prophecy. Section 5: Psychological Scars, Identity, and Self-Image. The psychological impact of this systematic dehumanization was profound. Stripped of their heritage and bombarded with messages of inferiority, many Africans internalized these harmful stereotypes. This resulted in a distorted self-image, a sense of worthlessness that transcended generations. This internalized oppression manifested in various ways, from self-doubt and low self-esteem to a disconnect from one's own history and culture. The scars of slavery ran deep, leaving an indelible mark on the African psyche. Section 6: Racism, a malignant mental disorder. Dr. Hilliard didn't shy away from labeling racism for what it is, a mental disorder. He argued that the belief in the superiority of one race over another based on arbitrary characteristics is a delusion rooted in fear, ignorance, and a need for control. This delusion, he argued, is perpetuated through a complex web of social conditioning, psychological projection, and a refusal to acknowledge historical truths. Racism, in Dr. Hilliard's view, is not merely a matter of prejudice. It is a dangerous pathology that infects individuals, institutions, and entire societies. Section 7: Returning to the Source, Reclaiming African Heritage. For Dr. Hilliard, the path to healing from the psychological wounds of slavery and racism was clear: return to the source. He urged people of African descent to embark on a journey of rediscovering their rich heritage, to unearth the historical truths that had been buried under centuries of misinformation and distortion. This return to the source involved studying African history, embracing African cultural practices, and reclaiming a sense of pride in one's African identity. It was a call to action, an invitation to reclaim the stolen legacy of a vibrant and diverse continent. Section 8: Unveiling Historical Distortions. From minstrel shows to encyclopedias. Dr. Hilliard was adept at exposing the tools used to distort African history and perpetuate racist ideologies. He cited examples like the 1910 edition of the Encyclopedia Britannica, which depicted Africans as inferior and uncivilized, perpetuating harmful stereotypes that continue to resonate today. He also pointed to the popularity of minstrel shows, a form of entertainment that relied on racist caricatures of African Americans, further solidifying negative stereotypes in the minds of white audiences. These distortions, Hilliard argued, were not merely harmless entertainment, they were powerful weapons in the arsenal of white supremacy. Section 9. Conclusion: The enduring power of African origins. Dr. Asa G. Hilliard's legacy lies in his unwavering commitment to truth, justice, and the liberation of the African mind. His work serves as a beacon, guiding us towards a deeper understanding of the past and a more just and equitable future. By returning to the source, by reclaiming our history and our heritage, we honor the resilience of our ancestors and pave the way for future generations to embrace their full potential. The journey of self-discovery, for people of African descent, is a revolutionary act, a powerful affirmation of identity and a resounding rejection of the lies that have been told for far too long.